It marks an important step in returning American astronauts to the moon.
For decades, the moon has been a symbol of mystery, of human achievement, and of questions left unanswered. The Apollo missions were celebrated as the ultimate triumph of exploration. But deep within NASA's classified vaults, there was something else, something no one was ever meant to hear. Recently declassified audio from the Apollo missions reveals a chilling truth about what the astronauts really encountered on the lunar surface. A truth that challenges everything we thought we knew about the moon, space, and humanity's place in the cosmos. It began with Apollo 11. The official story is well known. Armstrong and Aldrin step onto the surface, plant the flag, collect samples, and return heroes. But in the classified tapes, there's more. In hushed tones, amid static and interference, Armstrong's voice crackles through. "They're here," he says, pause. "They're watching us." Mission Control's response is garbled, evasive. "Repeat, Eagle. Say again." But Armstrong doesn't clarify. Instead, there's a long silence, then a clipped professional report about rock samples and coordinates. The moment is buried under routine chatter. For years, the truth was hidden, until now. Researchers analyzing the declassified tapes noticed strange patterns, brief gaps, unusual code words, and references to observers and structures. Structures. Not natural formations, not craters or rocks, structures built by something or someone. During Apollo 12, the anomalies intensified. As the crew approached their landing site, they reported odd reflections on the horizon, lights, movement, things that had no logical explanation. One of the astronauts, Pete Conrad, can be heard saying, "Looks like ruins, man-made, then static." When communications resumed, the discussion had shifted. Back to geological surveys, back to science. But the tone had changed. The awe was gone, replaced by fear. Apollo 14 brought even more disturbing evidence. As Alan Shepard and Edgar Mitchell moved across the lunar surface, a high-pitched rhythmic signal cut across their radios, a signal no one on Earth could trace. Mitchell can be heard whispering, almost to himself, "They're underground. I can feel it. Feel it. Something beyond sight, beyond reason." During Apollo 15, the evidence became impossible to ignore. David Scott's voice, tight with stress, describes something extraordinary. "There's a doorway here. Perfect angles, polished surface. Not natural. A doorway, miles away from their intended exploration zone. They were instructed to leave immediately." Years later, in private interviews, some of the astronauts hinted at what they had seen. Mitchell spoke of an awareness on the moon. Buzz Aldrin admitted he had seen lights that couldn't be explained. But under pressure, they all fell silent. Now, with the release of the declassified audio, the full story is emerging. According to internal documents accompanying the tapes, NASA had known about anomalies on the moon since the 1950s. Unusual signals, unexplained shadows, telescopic images showing structures that didn't belong. The decision to land on the moon was not just scientific, it was investigative. They needed to know what was there, and they found it. In one chilling recording, a discussion unfolds between Mission Control and Apollo 17. Astronaut Gene Cernan describes tracks on the surface. Tracks, but not from human activity. Cernan notes they are ancient, worn by time, stretching for miles across the dust. Something had once moved across the moon. Something massive. Then, as the astronauts prepared to leave, an alarm went off. A proximity alert. Something was approaching the lunar module. Not a rock, not debris. Something moving with purpose. In the garbled transmission, you can hear genuine fear. They're coming. Then silence. When the signal resumes, the crew is already preparing for an emergency launch. They leave the surface in a hurry, abandoning scheduled experiments. No explanation was ever given. Officially, it was blamed on technical anomalies. Unofficially, it was something else. The newly released memos suggest that NASA created entire cover missions to mask what they found. Photographs were edited, audio was cut, reports were buried, and all to protect one terrible secret. We are not alone, and we never were. Further analysis of the declassified material reveals references to the monoliths, massive black structures partially buried under the lunar dust, seamless, non-reflective, seemingly inert. But sensors showed they emitted low-frequency electromagnetic fields capable of interfering with human brainwaves. Astronauts reported intense feelings of dread when near them, hallucinations, time distortions, voices. The decision was made to leave them untouched, to cover them with regolith, to hide them. The world would not be ready for the truth. But the truth didn't stay buried. Following the declassification, scientists and independent researchers began to cross-reference the audio with satellite imagery. They found anomalies, perfect geometric shapes half buried in craters, symmetrical formations in areas once dismissed as random, patterns that could not occur naturally. One formation located near the moon's south pole matches the layout of an ancient city, grid-like streets, foundations of towering structures, all worn by eons of micrometeorite impacts, but still recognizable. As the evidence mounted, a terrifying theory emerged. The moon is not just a satellite. It may be an artifact, a relic, a construct. Some researchers propose that the moon was placed in orbit artificially, a cosmic arc, a time capsule, or perhaps a monitoring station. Watching Earth, watching us, and the entities that built it, gone, or perhaps merely sleeping. The declassified files reveal a chilling contingency plan called Project Horizon. If direct contact was made with an unknown intelligence, the astronauts were instructed to claim ignorance, avoid interaction, and withdraw immediately. If hostile behavior was observed, nuclear devices were authorized. Yes, NASA had considered the possibility of detonating a nuclear weapon on the moon to destroy potential threats, but no such action was taken. Instead, a silent agreement was made. Stay away, and for the most part, humanity did. After Apollo 17, no human set foot on the moon again. Publicly, it was a matter of funding and priorities. Privately, it was fear. Fear of awakening something best left undisturbed. In the years that followed, automated missions returned data suggesting ongoing activity. Flashes of light on the surface, shifting shadows, unexplainable energy emissions, signals that defied understanding. Even today, astronomers occasionally detect strange anomalies, flashes where no meteor impact occurs, echoes of radio signals without a source. The moon remains silent, but not empty. The implications of the declassified audio are profound. If the structures on the moon are real, they predate human civilization, perhaps even life on Earth itself. They suggest a history of the solar system far older and stranger than we have dared imagine. A history in which humanity is not the first intelligent species to rise, nor perhaps the last. The tapes end with a simple, haunting statement from one of the final Apollo missions. A voice, weary and awed, saying, "They were here before us. And maybe they still are." NASA has refused to officially comment on the declassified material. They claim the tapes are taken out of context, the result of equipment malfunctions and the stresses of spaceflight. But for those who have heard the raw audio, who have traced the evidence across decades, the conclusion is inescapable. We went to the moon to explore. We stayed silent because we found something we couldn't explain. Something that made us realize how small, how fragile we truly are. The moon watches. The structures endure. And the stars whisper secrets we are not ready to hear. The story does not end there. New private space programs, funded by billionaires and secretive organizations, have quietly begun launching probes to the lunar surface. Their findings are classified. Their missions shrouded in mystery. But leaked documents suggest they are not just looking for minerals or scientific data, they are looking for the monoliths, for the technology of the ancients, for the key to unlocking a power lost to time. Some believe that mastering this technology could catapult humanity into a new age. Others warn it could invite disaster on a scale we cannot comprehend. There are rumors of secret excavations, of artifacts recovered, of scientists disappearing, of labs destroyed under mysterious circumstances. And through it all, the warning persists. Some doors, once opened, cannot be closed. The moon's secrets are ancient, alien, terrifying, and they are waking. Some believe that the rapid advancements in technology over the past few decades, computers, communications, even genetics, are not solely human achievements. They hint at outside influence, at knowledge recovered, adapted, and unleashed, at a quiet war for control over a future shaped by forces beyond our understanding. The stakes are nothing less than the fate of humanity itself. We stand at the threshold of a new era, but behind that door lies wonder and horror, hope and annihilation. The moon waits, its silent guardians observe, and somewhere beneath the dust and stone, an ancient intelligence stirs. It watches, it remembers, and soon it may awaken. The question is, will we be ready, or will we be swept away like those who came before? The truth is no longer hidden. It is here, in the static of forgotten transmissions, in the shadows of craters, in the dreams of those brave enough to look up at the night sky and wonder. The moon is not what we think it is, and now we know. The revelation sparked a silent panic among the world's most powerful institutions. In hidden chambers of government buildings, classified meetings were held. Intelligence agencies, military leaders, and top scientists gathered behind closed doors, struggling to comprehend the enormity of what had been found. It was no longer just a scientific curiosity, it was a national security threat, and it had to be contained. Within weeks of the first leak, an emergency task force was assembled. Its mandate was simple, yet staggering: control all information regarding extraterrestrial activity on the moon, assess any threats posed by the ancient structures, and if possible, harness the technology for Earth's advantage. This task force operated under a name only whispered among the highest circles: Project Enoch. Its mission was global, its resources unlimited, and its methods ruthless. Project Enoch deployed a new wave of lunar probes, far more sophisticated than anything NASA had publicly admitted to possessing. Equipped with quantum sensors, deep penetration radar, and even experimental artificial intelligence, these probes were tasked with mapping the hidden ruins beneath the moon's surface. The results were staggering. Beneath the regolith, they found entire complexes, cities, vast networks of interconnected chambers and corridors, some stretching for hundreds of miles, structures built with materials unknown to modern science, metals that resisted all forms of analysis, compounds that absorbed electromagnetic radiation completely, rendering them invisible to most sensors. Even more disturbing were the artifacts, machines of impossible complexity, dormant yet humming with a subtle energy, symbols carved into the walls eerily similar to ancient languages found on Earth. Runes matching those from the Indus Valley civilization, the Mayan temples, and the oldest Sumerian tablets. It was as if these ancient Earth cultures had drawn inspiration from something they had seen, or something that had visited them. Among the artifacts, one discovery sent shockwaves through Project Enoch. A chamber filled with capsules, pods designed to hold living beings. Most were empty, but a few were not. Inside, perfectly preserved in a state of suspended animation, were entities unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. Tall, slender, humanoid, yet distinctly alien. Their skin was smooth, almost metallic, their skulls elongated, their hands delicate and claw-like, and on their chests a symbol, an interlocking triad, glowing faintly. Against all better judgment, Project Enoch authorized an attempt to awaken one of the entities. The consequences were immediate and catastrophic. The being awoke in agony. Its scream was not heard by human ears, it was felt. A psychic shockwave that disabled every sensor within 100 miles. Scientists collapsed, clutching their heads, bleeding from their noses and ears. The entity died moments later, its body crumbling into ash, but not before transmitting a final burst of information into the AI systems connected to the chamber. A warning, an image, a star map, a sequence, and one terrifying phrase, translated by linguistic experts who wished they had never understood it. We are not the first. We are not the last. The harvest comes. The harvest. Project Enoch's leaders convened an emergency session. Theories abounded. Had these beings fled to the moon to escape some cosmic cataclysm? Were the monoliths beacons signaling something or someone? And most chilling of all, was the harvest still on its way? The leaked audio recordings barely scratched the surface of the truth. The real secret was that the moon was not just a relic of ancient visitors. It was a warning buoy, a cosmic lighthouse erected by a civilization on the brink of extinction, desperately trying to alert anyone who came after. But alert them to what? Further exploration of the subterranean complexes yielded more answers and more horror. In one chamber, they found a massive portal device constructed of concentric rings, each inscribed with unfamiliar constellations. It pulsed with a dark, rhythmic energy. Attempts to activate the device were disastrous. The first probe sent through disappeared without a trace. The second returned. But it was wrong. The metal was twisted, the electronics scrambled, and the feed captured just one frame before the probe was destroyed. A glimpse of an alien world. Dark skies, massive, spindly towers, creatures moving like smoke across the barren plains, an atmosphere of pure malice. Whatever lay on the other side of the portal was not meant to be seen or visited, and yet some within Project Enoch argued that they had no choice. If the harvest was coming, Earth had to understand its enemy, to prepare, to fight. Unauthorized rogue elements within the task force began experiments. Genetic manipulation using traces of alien DNA recovered from the chambers. Hybridization programs. Weaponization of the strange technologies found within the monoliths. The result? Disasters that could barely be contained. Creatures that defied biology, escaping containment and vanishing into the depths of secret research facilities. Psychic anomalies spreading like infections among personnel. Insanity, suicides, and worse. It became clear that humanity was tampering with forces it neither understood nor could control. Yet the work continued, because somewhere, out there in the void, the harvest was still coming, and Earth was running out of time. Meanwhile, back on the moon, further revelations emerged. In a hidden archive chamber, scientists discovered something that changed everything again. Records, not of alien civilizations, but of Earth. Detailed maps of the planet stretching back millions of years, not just human civilizations, but prehistoric eras. Mass extinctions, climate shifts, even genetic catalogs of Earth species, including humanity. The horrifying implication was undeniable. We were being monitored, curated, perhaps even created. The ancient beings had shaped Earth's development as a gardener tends a crop. But for what purpose? Were we an experiment, a resource, or something far darker? The moon was not just a station, it was a vault, a control center, a seed bank, and perhaps a harvest point. The timelines matched too closely to be coincidence. Mass extinctions on Earth coinciding with energy fluctuations detected on the moon. Civilizational collapses following sightings of strange celestial events. Patterns hidden in myth and legend. Gods descending from the skies, chariots of fire, visitors bearing knowledge and destruction alike. It had all happened before, and it was about to happen again. But the final, most chilling discovery was yet to come. in a heavily shielded subchamber beneath the largest monolith, scientists found an interface, not a computer, something more, something alive, a sentient archive. When activated, it spoke, not in words, but in concepts, images, and emotions. It revealed a history stretching back billions of years, a war among the stars, an ancient empire shattered by forces too vast and terrible to comprehend. Survivors fleeing across galaxies, seeding worlds with life, hoping to rebuild, but always pursued by the harvesters, entities without form, devourers of life and light. They had no name, only hunger. The monoliths were warnings, defenses, and tombstones the survivors had hidden, some on Mars, some on Earth, and some beneath the moon, waiting for a day when the cycle would begin again. The sentient archive ended its communication with a simple, heartbreaking message: run. The leaders of Project Enoch faced an impossible choice: reveal the truth to humanity and risk global panic, or continue to hide it and prepare in secret. They chose secrecy, but secrets cannot be kept forever. Whistleblowers began leaking fragments of the story, first to conspiracy forums, then to independent journalists, then to the world. The public reaction was a mix of disbelief, terror, and grim fascination. Governments scrambled to control the narrative, offering partial disclosures, distracting scandals, anything to keep attention divided. But the cat was out of the bag. Amateur astronomers began spotting new anomalies on the moon, structures that seemed to pulse and shift, unexplainable lights flickering across the dark surface. And then, worse. In the skies over Earth, unidentified objects began to appear. Not the slow, lumbering UFOs of past sightings. These were different, faster, darker, predatory, probes perhaps, scouts, searching, cataloging. The harvest was drawing near. In desperation, humanity began to unite. Old rivalries were cast aside. A global alliance was formed, not for war against each other, but for survival against a common enemy. Massive projects were launched in secret: orbital defenses, deep space sensors, planetary shields. Scientists raced to reverse engineer the alien technology recovered from the moon, to find a weapon, a hope. But time was short. The harvesters had found their old prize once more, Earth, and they were coming to claim it. The moon watches. The monoliths pulse with awakening energies. The ancient warnings ring louder with each passing day. Run, the archive had said, but where can we run? Earth is our cradle, and perhaps our tomb. The declassified NASA audio was just the beginning. The real story is only now being written, and its ending is uncertain. One thing is clear: humanity stands on the precipice of revelation or extinction. The stars hold wonders beyond imagining, but they also hold terrors beyond endurance. The next time you look up at the moon, remember, it is not just a rock, it is not just a satellite, it is a tombstone, a warning, and perhaps a final battlefield. The harvest approaches. Are we ready, or are we already too late? The first true sign of their arrival was not seen but felt. Across the globe, sensitive instruments registered subtle distortions in the fabric of space-time itself. Gravity waves rippling unnaturally, patterns that defied any known cosmic phenomenon. In remote observatories, terrified astronomers observed stars blinking out, one by one, as something vast and terrible passed between Earth and distant constellations. The harvesters were no longer a theoretical threat. They were moving, and they were close. The global alliance accelerated its efforts. Spaceports buzzed with feverish activity. Orbital defense platforms were launched at breakneck speed. Hidden research facilities worked day and night to awaken the ancient lunar technologies, hoping to turn the ancient defenses back on. But nothing humanity had could match the magnitude of the threat they faced. Not yet. From the moon, new signals began to pulse outward. Beacon codes, warning flares, screams across the cosmic void. as if the ancient survivors of the first harvest were awakening again, or as if something inside the monoliths was calling for help or surrendering. The greatest minds of Earth were assembled in emergency conclaves. Physicists, biologists, linguists, military strategists, even mystics and shamans were consulted. Anything that might give humanity an edge, no matter how unorthodox. In the chaos, a secret society emerged into the light. The custodians of the threshold. An ancient order, descendants of those who had, in whispered myths, preserved fragments of knowledge from the last harvest. For generations they had hidden their secrets, dismissing their ancestors' warnings as mere legend. But now, faced with undeniable reality, they offered their knowledge freely. They spoke of the old gates, portals hidden not just on the moon but on Earth itself. Ancient sites of power, Stonehenge, the Great Pyramid, Teotihuacan, Easter Island, Göbekli Tepe. They were not merely cultural monuments. They were part of a vast planetary network, a defense grid. If reactivated, it might protect Earth, or at least delay the inevitable. Humanity's last, desperate hope. Rapid teams were dispatched to each site, armed not just with technology, but with ancient rituals and knowledge long scorned as superstition. Because the truth was clear now, science alone could not save humanity. This was a war of matter and spirit alike. The first activation occurred at the Great Pyramid. A device hidden deep beneath the monument was awakened. A beam of coherent energy lanced into the sky, invisible to human eyes but detected by instruments worldwide. One by one, the other nodes began to awaken. The Earth itself seemed to stir. Old energies, dormant for millennia, pulsed once more. And for a time, hope returned. But the harvesters were not idle. They had seen this defense before. They had crushed it once, and they would crush it again. The first direct attack came without warning. Over the Pacific Ocean, a shimmering tear appeared in the sky, an impossible wound in reality itself. From it poured dark vessels, neither entirely solid nor entirely energy. Massive structures like twisted spiders gliding silently through the atmosphere. Earth's orbital defenses opened fire immediately. Kinetic weapons, plasma beams, even nuclear-tipped missiles. But the enemy adapted instantly. Projectiles phased harmlessly through them. Energy weapons were absorbed or reflected back with lethal precision. Earth's forces fell back, desperate to regroup. The dark vessels hovered over strategic locations, major cities, military bases, sites of ancient power. They did not speak. They did not negotiate. They simply began. Massive beams of dark energy lanced downward. Matter unraveled where they struck. Entire city blocks crumbled into dust. Millions perished in minutes. The harvest had begun. In the midst of the carnage, the moon itself changed. The monoliths pulsed faster. The portal chamber flared to life. The ancient archive sent one final message to Earth's defenders. A choice: escape or resist. The escape route was simple in theory, impossible in practice. Activate the moon's portal, flee through it to worlds unknown, a desperate gamble that might save a remnant of humanity, or lead them into even greater peril. Resistance meant staying, fighting, using every scrap of technology, ancient and modern, to make a stand. Most chose to resist. A few, the custodians and the most radical scientists, chose to flee. They gathered the surviving artifacts, the children, the seeds of Earth's knowledge, and prepared to pass through the portal. Meanwhile, the Global Alliance launched its final gambit, Operation Prometheus, an attempt to weaponize the ancient energy network by linking it to Earth's magnetic field, to create a planetary shield. The operation was perilous. One mistake could tear the planet apart, but doing nothing meant certain annihilation. Around the world, battles raged. Humanity's weapons proved largely ineffective. But in isolated cases, hybrid technologies, Combinations of alien materials and human ingenuity managed to wound the harvesters. It was not enough to win, but it showed that they could bleed. If they could bleed, they could die. The planetary shield activation required synchronizing all the ancient sites simultaneously, a task complicated by constant attacks. Teams fought and died to keep the sites operational. Scientists sacrificed themselves to repair failing generators. Ancient rites were performed alongside cold equations, spirit and science united at last. And finally, in a moment that seemed to stretch across eternity, the network activated. A pulse of energy spread outward from Earth's core. An aurora brighter than the sun erupted across the skies. The dark vessels recoiled. Some disintegrated. Others adapted, shifting into new, more terrible forms. But for the first time, Earth had struck back. Hope flared. However, victory came at a terrible price. The shield was unstable. It would not last. Worse, the energy signature had drawn attention from something even greater lurking beyond the veil. The true harvesters. The first wave had merely been scouts. Now the ancient devourers moved. Across the solar system, telescopes captured images of massive objects approaching. World ships, cities the size of moons traveling through the dark between stars, each bristling with weapons capable of tearing planets apart. Humanity had bought time, nothing more. The leaders of the Alliance convened one last time. Options were few: escape through the moon portal, or stay and fight a hopeless battle. Some argued that fleeing would only spread the infection of humanity elsewhere, perhaps drawing the harvesters to new worlds. Others believed it was humanity's only chance at survival. In the end, both paths were chosen. Two great arcs were built in secret, vast generation ships cobbled together from alien technology and human desperation. One would pass through the moon portal, the other would attempt to flee into deep space. Both were gambles, neither offered guarantees. As the harvesters approached, the skies darkened. Satellites winked out one by one. The moon itself trembled. The monoliths flared, reaching their final crescendo. The portal opened, a rift into the unknown. Those who chose escape boarded the first arc, vanishing into the swirling vortex. The second arc launched toward Proxima Centauri, humanity's nearest star neighbor, carrying the last hope of the species into the cold night. And Earth? Earth braced for war. Cities were fortified into bastions. The surviving militaries regrouped. Civilization, as it had been, was gone. What remained was a battered, bloodied humanity determined to make its last stand. The harvesters descended. The final battle for Earth began. In the chaos, strange allies emerged. Entities from the monoliths themselves, shadows of the ancient race who had first fought the harvest. They were memories made flesh, echoes of a civilization long gone, and they fought alongside humanity. For a time it seemed possible that victory might be won, that Earth might endure. But the cost was staggering. Entire continents burned. The oceans boiled under the assault of planetary-scale weapons. The shield faltered, then failed. Earth's surface became a battlefield of ash and ruin. And still, the survivors fought. They fought not for victory, but for defiance, for memory, for the hope that somewhere the arcs would find new worlds, new beginnings, new chances. The final message broadcast from Earth's surface was simple. We are humanity. We remember. We resist. We endure. Then silence. The harvesters consumed what remained. But deep among the stars, the ark sailed on, bearing the seeds of humanity to places unknown, carrying stories of the moon, of the monoliths, of the harvest, and of the indomitable spirit of a species that refused to be extinguished. The moon remains a scarred and silent witness. The monoliths stand broken, but not forgotten. And somewhere in the endless dark, humanity dreams still, waiting, planning, becoming. For one day the children of Earth will return, and the harvesters will know fear.